So today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the strategies you can use to maximize the funding on your cash balance plan. So I'm going to go through 10 different strategies. We probably use a couple dozen here at Emparion, but 10 main strategies that we walk through with clients to make sure that the plan is serving the proper purpose and getting maximum contributions to the owners. So strategy number one is being able to exclude 60% of employees. The IRS has a rule that says that cash balance plans need to include the lesser of 50 employees or 40% of the employees. And so many people think that all employees have to be covered by a cash balance plan. That isn't the case. You definitely can exclude them as long as you provide the remaining employees what's considered a meaningful benefit. And that really goes to strategy number two. Strategy number two, when we start talking about meaningful benefit, there's a variety of different ways to calculate the meaningful benefit itself. It can be actuarially determined, it can be a flat dollar amount, or it can be a percentage of pay. You know, this is usually going to run you 3, 4, 5% or so of compensation, depending on how the plan is structured and whether or not there's a profit sharing plan. But you definitely can strategize and structure a meaningful benefit to maximize any owner contributions. Number three, this one's very critical. Don't forget to add a 401k and a profit sharing component. People don't realize that you can combine 401k plans with cash balance plans. In fact, I'd say probably 90–95% of our plans actually do combine those two. So it's a nice way to add on, layer on a separate plan that gives you a little bit more flexibility in funding because there is the employee deferral on the 401k side. So it definitely provides a little bit more flexible funding and allows you to contribute a little bit more into the plan. So that's a very important strategy for a lot of folks. Strategy number four, including your spouse in the plan. A lot of small business owners, especially professionals out there, have spouses that work in their business. They don't realize that they can actually include their spouse in the plan, get an amount funded for the spouse. This includes an employee deferral in addition to a profit sharing component along with the cash balance plan. So very critical, if you've got a spouse that's working in the business, they have to be working in the business, they have to have a W-2 wage, assuming you're an S Corp or C Corp or whatnot. But very critical, if you've got a spouse working in the plan, make sure that they can qualify to increase your contribution. The next strategy, number five, would be hiring part-time employees, employees under the age of 21, and or utilizing subcontractors. Now, this strategy might be a great strategy for you when it comes to maximizing any amounts that you can fund in the plan to the owners, but it might not be a great business decision for you. Employing a lot of 18, 19-year-old kids or part-timers might not work for you in your business, but certainly if you do, you can exclude them from the plan and they're not going to be considered eligible employees to get a contribution. In addition to that, subcontractors, to the extent you can use subcontractors in your business, they're not qualified employees, of course, and would not be subject to any contributions. Be very careful though when it comes to subcontractors because the IRS really looks to control. So, don't just change someone from an employee to a contractor. Make sure you discuss the situations with your accountant to make sure that they really qualify for subcontractor status. Number six, make sure that you carefully time the entrance dates for the cash balance plans. In fact, entrance dates into plans, we've seen monthly plans, quarterly, annual plans. The key thing is that if you set it up where you've got an annual contribution deadline, employees are going to have to put in a certain number of hours before they're going to be able to contribute to that plan. And so when you start thinking of turnover in the business, you might find that some of those employees will not be here long enough to be eligible for a contribution. Number seven, consider paying yourself a higher wage. Now, typically, business owners, especially an S Corp owner, wants to pay themselves as low as a wage as possible in order to minimize employment taxes. However, with Social Security capping about $123,000, above that level, you've just got Medicare. So if you paid yourself $125,000 on a W-2, doubling that to $250,000 is only really going to cost you about 2.9% Medicare tax. So it's not going to cost you a lot of employment taxes, but it's probably going to double your cash balance plan contribution. So very critical for you to consider increasing your wage assuming it meets the reasonable comp definition. Strategy number 8, make sure you use a 3-year cliff vesting. In fact, for employees, you can use various types of vesting. There's what they call graded vesting, which is sort of pro rata over a period of time, or cliff vesting. The IRS does allow for a 3-year cliff vesting, which means that even though contributions are made, if they don't meet the 3-year period, those contributions are forfeited and get rolled back into the plan and will just reduce contributions in a future period. Number 9, I've talked about this in a separate video, but consider life insurance. Life insurance in a cash balance plan works very well for a lot of folks. For the right person, it's a home run, but it's not always for everybody. But it does allow you to combine some of the benefits of life insurance with a qualified contribution, get you tax savings, and in many situations can allow you to put a little bit more into the plan with the life insurance than you would be able to do otherwise. And the last one, strategy number 10, is determining whether or not overfunding is optional for you in a given year. Sometimes clients have, obviously like any business, they have up and down years. And so you might find yourself in a situation where you had a really good year and you've got some flexibility in your plan to be able to fund a larger portion into the plan. You want to be able to meet your minimum guidelines, and there's certainly is recommended amounts under plans. Typically your first few years are a little bit more rigid in how much you can fund. As a plan matures, there's a little bit more flexibility, so you may want to talk to your plan TPA and your actuary to determine if the proper funding levels or if overfunding is going to work for you. So we talked a little bit about some of the strategies that you can use. Again, at Emparion, we use a couple different strategies when we talk to clients about how to structure a plan. Make sure you consider these, talk them over with your TPA and your financial advisor to make sure you strategize and get a plan that works best for you.